You're listening to The Breakfast Show on Faith FM with Skafy and Lindsay and producer Chelsea at the desk here. We are going to be talking about, there's a lot going on there, Lindsay.
Yeah.
I want to just briefly touch on the fight between Jackie O and Kyle, the biggest Australian radio media personalities, I would say. Certainly the best paid ones.
Okay.
But I actually want to talk more about Iran, and there's some stories that are coming from there, some updates. There's some really interesting stories there. But I think that everything can be profitable if we are approaching them from a Bible lens. So that's what we're going to try to do. We are going to talk about your segment. What are you going to be bringing today, my friend?
We're going to be talking about a little interview from Eileen Gu, one of the Olympic...
Okay. Oh, yes. I'm keen to talk about that one.
Yeah.
She's fascinating, that lady.
Yeah.
But before we get into any of that here, we are going to get producer Shells to give us a new quiz question.
All right, our third for the day. After hearing Jeremiah's prophecy, what punishment did the priest Pashur inflict on him? They're thinking here. I'll repeat it. After hearing Jeremiah's prophecy, what punishment did the priest Pashur inflict on him? Hang on. Not what I have, guys. They're both good. No, it's not what I've got. Although I do know that happened, and I think what you said happened too.
Let me try a second attempt here.
Nope, still not the answer that Shell decided we should have.
Okay, I don't know. Look, this story's not very fresh in my mind, so I was just guessing
I actually think all of those
strokes.
things happened, but
Not
what I have
necessarily.
is not maybe in the exact same.
We will find out.
So you guys can text to 0491 064 669. After hearing Jeremiah's prophecy, what punishment did the priest Pashur inflict on Jeremiah?
Okay, let's definitely look. Let me just give as hints to you listening friends. Like, we were going to give you some tips here so that you don't give the wrong answer like I did, apparently. So I said that he was thrown into a well, and then I said he got arrested. These were my two attempts. I had the impression that both of these things happened to Jeremiah in some point of his life, but perhaps not in that interaction. What did you respond, Lindsay?
I said put him in prison and beat him. I don't know if beat him necessarily happened, but
beat him.
That was just a second attempt to try to get the right answer.
Okay, so
I feel like he got hit over the head with something at some point.
Okay, so all of these things were not according to your answer, right, producer Shells? So all of our attempts here were wrong, right?
Yes, that's not what I have. So I'm just really quickly checking.
Okay, while producer Shells checks.
So those things you've said I know happened to him too, but it's not what happened in
that episode.
Moment.
Okay, we're gonna learn. Okay. So you already know what it did not happen.
So Jeremiah was a bit of a fool. He had a lot going on in his life. There was lots of different moments, and we just got the wrong moment with the wrong guy here. So okay, alrighty.
That's right. Okay, Lindsay, tell me please about that story of yours of Eileen Gu. Who is her?
Who is she? So she is a Olympic gold medalist and a model, and I believe she's from the US, but she has represented China, I believe.
Yeah, so she's kind of a Chinese.
She's Chinese American, but she didn't even though she's grown up in America, she's chosen to represent China instead.
Will have been sparked some political.
I'm not going to get into that.
Contentions, I would imagine.
But yeah, I think that's causing a little bit of controversy and conversation out there. But we're not going to talk about that. Instead, I would like to share a little audio clip from an interview. An interviewer asked her a question, and this is her response. So let's see if we can get this to play.
This isn't supposed to be a rude question, but do you think before you speak? Because you answer questions so quickly and so comprehensively, whether it's about geopolitics or your sport or aerodynamics. Like, can you take us into your brain?
Thank you, Charlotte. That's very kind. Oh, man. do I think? I think overall I'm just a pensive person. Like I'm an introspective young woman. Like I spend a lot of time in my head, and it's not a bad place to be. I journal a lot. I break down all of my thought processes. I think I apply a very analytical lens to my own thinking, and I kind of modify it because it's so interesting. You can control what you think. Like you can control how you think, and therefore you can control who you are. And especially as a young person, like I'm 22, so with neuroplasticity on my side, I can literally become exactly who I want to be. How cool is that? Like how empowering is that, right? And so the fact is I get to become every day the kind of person that me at age 8 would revere. Like I would be obsessed with me today. Are you kidding? I would love me. And I think that's the biggest flex of all time, that you can have like little younger you be proud of you today. And so I guess for me, it's like, yes, I spend a lot of time in my own head. Yes, I think a lot, but it's not really like in an egotistical kind of way. It's in like a tinkering, like a scientist kind of way. I'm always like trying to modify. I'm trying to think, how can I be better? How can I approach my own brain the way that I approach my craft of free skiing, so that I can be better tomorrow than I was today?
Awesome. So
I actually loved that answer, that response.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Skafy did send that to me the other day
Yeah.
to
So,
share.
Lindsay, you have to talk about this.
We've got to
this
talk
girl.
about it. So, and he insisted again this morning. Let's talk about it. All right. Okay. Let's talk about that today. So we both really love this answer. What do you love about it, Skafy?
Okay, look, I love a bunch of things. Number one, Eileen Gu, she's like not only a model,
Yes.
and she's not only an Olympic athlete, but she's like one of the most condecorated free skiers of all times. She has like a collection of gold medals, and she's a Red Bull athlete as well. So for you to be a Red Bull athlete, you just have to be...
That's hectic. I love watching Red Bull videos of like hectic
I
extreme
know,
sports. That's
right?
like one of my little pastimes. Like, what on earth are they doing?
That's right. Look, you can keep the drink, ditch the drink.
Who cares about the drink? But like the extreme sports that they go to their lengths. Oh my goodness, it's crazy.
It's really amazing. So what I liked about that answer is, first of all, someone recognized in Eileen Gu, said, hey, like, can you please tell us like how you think? Because I'm quite amazed in everything that you said. And you can see that she's very well spoken. She's definitely gifted with the gift of communication. She's 22.
Yeah.
She's a baby.
Yeah.
But she speaks like a really big person.
She's very eloquent.
I like two things here. Number one, I think there's a big biblical analogy to that one, and which is when I heard her speech, my mind got me to 2 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 5.
Okay.
It says, we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Do you remember that passage? Have you seen it before?
Absolutely. It's one that I have to repeat to myself very often.
Yes. And I love that idea of taking captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ.
Absolutely.
So for the Christian, every thought that we're having, every single thought, we're contrasting it against Jesus, against his love, against the love of God, and saying, hey, is this thought true? Is this helpful? Is this going to lead me to build me up to be the person that God wants me to be?
Absolutely. I point this out to my friends or to my family members a lot, not necessarily like that Bible verse, but certainly the principle behind it of what you speak out of your mouth or whatever you're thinking is then what you're going to speak. It impacts the way your life is lived. So I had a friend yesterday in the library at university. She was, a little bit stressed. She's like, oh, I'm going to fail. I'm going to, not going to be able to pass. I'm too stressed. I was like, stop saying that.
Yes, good
because
on you.
if you say that, or if you think that, like that is going to be your reality. That is what you're going to move in towards, right? But if you take those thoughts and those words captive and you submit them to Christ and you say, God, what do you say about me? God, you say that I can do all things through Christ. Like I'm empowered. I am loved. You give me gifts. You give me strength and wisdom. All these types of things is the truth. And we can claim that truth and we can transform our minds and transform our lives through the words that we say if we choose to. if we don't let our words and our thoughts run wild, unchecked,
That's right.
unrestrained, unbridled. But if we bring them and we constrain them, we choose, like Eileen is saying, hey, I can tinker.
You can choose my thoughts.
I can choose exactly my thoughts and I can become the best version of myself that little me would be so amazed
That's
at.
right. I actually like that. And look, and probably she's not coming from a Christian perspective.
No, probably not, but certainly.
But she's getting it. She's definitely aligned with what the Bible is saying that, right? To be loved by your young self, I think it's actually a pretty cool way of thinking, to be honest. But most importantly, I think that we have to say, hey, am I making my God proud of me?
Yes.
I think that's the ultimate one. But, your little self, I mean, if you can make your little self proud and God proud at the same time, well, that's a win in my books. The other thing that I really liked about her is that she mentioned journaling.
Yes.
She journals a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did some journaling, a little bit less, a little bit more, depending on the times. But journaling is something quite interesting. Actually, I was once listening from Jordan Peterson. I was hearing one of his. And look, love him or hate him. Jordan Peterson is very polarizing.
Yeah.
But nobody can disagree that he's not an excellent speaker.
He's excellent.
He's an excellent speaker. And someone once was asking him, hey, Jordan, what is the tips to good public speaking? And they're talking to a man that is really well-spoken.
Yes.
It's a man that, again, agree or disagree with his thoughts. And I certainly disagree with a lot of what he has to say, particularly on the Bible sphere.
Sure, yes. His Bible take on things.
That's right.
Not
as a Bible scholar, he's a great psychologist. Let me put it that way.
Yes.
But that being said, he commands attention, and his thought process, if you can follow, because even I have to sit down and kind of pay 110% attention because if you don't pay attention, he sounds incoherent. But when you're paying attention, you realize this man is a really
his
amazing
brain is
speaker.
moving faster than anyone else's.
He's a genius.
So.
And he says that writing is the key to good speaking.
Yes,
because when we are writing our thoughts down, you're helping to organize the blob, the mess.
Yeah.
And I was talking to you about it yesterday, haven't I? When you're doing university at the moment, can you tell the difference between you talking about a topic that you have researched versus a topic that you just kind of first got acquainted with?
Yeah.
Do you see a difference?
Absolutely. I nobody loves writing an essay for university, but I love having finished writing an essay because I'm like, wow, look at the amazing things I've learned.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I can now talk authoritatively on this very niche topic right now. So.
And there's one interesting thing. This is why I believe it's one of the reasons in the book of Deuteronomy, Moses instructed the kings of Israel to do one thing every day.
Write out the law.
To write out with their own fists, with their own hands, the word of God, the law of the Lord.
Yeah.
Because when we are writing things down, it enters into our brain in a different way from just like reading.
Or just speaking, or just hearing.
So Jordan Peterson said the key for good speaking is writing, and the key for good writing is reading.
Yeah.
So the more you read, the better you write. The more you write, the better you will speak and organize your thoughts.
Yeah. We also have a link to a journal that you can get a hold of. It's called the Overflow Journal for women specifically. So if you want to get a hold of that, give us the hashtag flow.
Hashtag flow to 0491 064 669. So we can send you the link.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
And now we are going to review the answer to the quiz question. Please, producer Shells.
I'm too busy trying to write your message that your burgers at the food pharmacy are the best ever.
Thank you very much.
We went for my birthday lunch, and I just when he said something to me about food pharmacy, and I'm like, now I'm just craving your burgers.
The burgers are so good. All plant-based, all
so
healthy.
good.
Shout out to my wife, Camilla. She's
what was
running the cafe.
What was the thing I got there? It was the pesto and pumpkin, toasty, completely
so good.
Completely plant-based
With
toasty.
vegan feta. and
so
Hungry.
good.
Speaking of food today, our interview today is going to be a food-based interview.
Oh, awesome. Good.
We're going to have Jeremy Dixon, and he's going to be talking to us all about tofu and tempeh,
Hey.
which happens to be two of my favorite
Gonna make
foods.
me hungrier.
I bought tempeh one time, but I had no idea how to use it. I was scared and I chucked it out. I didn't.
What?
Use it.
Okay,
I don't know if it was
all right.
because I don't know anything about it.
You
So
get-
I am going to learn today.
Okay, today you're going to learn.
What is tempeh?
Okay, you're
It's
going
like
to learn
tofu.
that tempeh as well. It's amazing. It's a
another
wonder of
Asian
nature.
thing.
But Shells,
quiz.
before we get into tempeh, I have some interesting news to share with you. But before we get there, let's get the answer to the
All
quiz
right,
question.
all right. So the answer was, which Lindsay might have had a part of this now. I've forgotten what you guys all said, but the answer was beat him and
Yeah.
put him in the stocks.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I did
And
put
it
beat
was-
him as my second answer.
Was that
Yeah.
the second answer? Yes.
Yeah, I thought he got in
We had some
prison.
correct answers come through from, I think
Valmay got it right
Valmay
with
got
the
it
first
right.
one.
Oh,
yeah.
well
And
done, Valmay.
David got the passage.
Yep. Awesome. Good job, guys. Thanks for playing along. Now, did you have something you wanted to share with us there, Skafy?
Okay, yes. Let's go into our news here. There's two things that I want to say. No, sorry, about the story of Jeremiah, you mean, or the news?
Was there more about food pharmacy that you wanted to say?
No.
No, you were done with that?
No, yeah,
okay.
done.
All right. Cool.
I actually want to talk about Jackie O and Kyle. Kyle and
Okay.
Jackie O.
Yes.
They have
Tell
this
us.
show, and Kyle is kind of the shock jock, and they talk a lot of, politically incorrect things
Oh,
with
okay.
sexual innuendo. Look, to be honest, not my cup of tea.
Sure.
I think that a lot of people don't actually like their show at all,
Okay.
but a lot of people do. And I think they represent a lot of people, believe it or not. So much so, and look, that's good. That's their cup of tea. Who am I to judge? But they were the best paid radio personalities in the history of
Wow.
Australian radio. For example, Lindsay, how would you find if I offered you, say, hey, Lindsay, I'm going to give you today $40,000.
$40,000.
$40,000 just today.
Just today?
Yeah, how would you feel about it?
Yes, please.
So imagine now if every day that you come to work, I'll give you $40,000
I would come to work at least 2 days in a row.
and then retire, right?
Probably.
For the rest of the year.
For the rest of the year.
Well, they signed a contract. They signed a contract of $200 million for
Yeah.
10 years, $100 million for each. So $10 million per year per each, so that they can talk literally
Wow.
trash on their radio.
Wow.
I mean, yes. So they definitely got some,
gracious.
definitely have some public utilities. I think I once saw
if they're-
them interviewing Prime Minister Albanese. It was a good interview. I think they kept it respectful.
If they're breaking up, I'm happy to take over.
Look, I don't know because look, yes, the show
happening?
might offend some of your Christian sensitivities.
No, of course it would.
But this is the thing. They had a big fight on air.
Okay.
And the context was they were talking about former Prince Andrew.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And apparently now, or not now, but relatively recently, Jackie O became obsessed with people's horoscopes. And she was going to talk about, what's one Prince Andrew's horoscopes. Look, I guess that people would be curious about that, people that believe in, astrology and these kinds
Yeah.
of things. And she says, I'm going to do like a birth map or something. I do not know how these things
How
work,
they
to be
work.
honest.
Yep.
I personally don't care at all
No.
about horoscopes, though. I don't believe in them. But a lot of people do. And then she was talking about it. And then in the middle of that, Kyle just kind of interrupted her and said, you know what? You're going off with the fairies with this one. You're becoming almost unworkable. It becomes like a drug addiction, this thing of yours. So he had said that, and she got really offended. She said, oh, this is an attack. I would never say something about you. And they were kind of arguing back and forth with that. She did not take that lightly. And apparently from what I've been reading about it online, it looks like this was something that Kyle was kind of complaining because during the program, she's supposed to be keeping an eye. She'd be supposed to be focusing, paying attention on what he has to say.
Yeah.
So she can come back, she can come up with clever things. And apparently she was just kind of scrolling her phone, looking through horoscopes in the middle of the program. And that was kind of
Just-
lowering the quality
Yeah.
a tad. And, but now what happened, she stormed off the radio show in the middle of the air. And she says, I'm not going to do this show. I'm not going to ever do this again. Their partnership has spent over 20 years, I think 22 or 24 years
Wow.
by now. So they have been together on air for a long time. And they always have this kind of walk this thread, this fine line between a kind of a joke banter versus borderlining bullying.
Oh, okay.
And this time for Jackie O, was just he
friend.
thought, for Kyle's perspective, from Kyle's perspective, he said, no, I have said way worse things
Yeah.
before.
This seems like such a small thing to blow up over.
Look, it seems like, but it blew over, and their radio station is kind of backing her up. So they gave him 14 days to prove that he didn't commit bullying or workplace harassment or bullying, whatever.
Okay.
But his bid is basically getting kicked at, and then the radio station came to Jackie O and says, "Look, we're going to give you whatever job you want. Like you can get the radio show you want. We can do another, just the Jackie O show if you want to." So they're kind of setting up with her on
Even
that
though
one.
she was like lowering quality and he was calling it out.
Look, this is some of the reports that we are looking at.
Wow.
He called it out. It was not a gentle calling it out side of
No.
things. And I think this is one of the things that people that do not know the word of God.
Yeah.
When it comes to
Speak the
conflict
truth in love.
resolution, that's right. Speaking the truth in love, he could have definitely said, "Hey, off the air,
Yeah.
say, Jackie, look, I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah.
I know that, you find it really interesting and our listeners might find it interesting, but look, it's disrupting the show. Can we
Yeah.
do this differently?" And
Yeah.
so on and so forth. But no.
But there's a reason why he's paid $10 million a year, and that's because they know that he won't speak.
That's right. He's the kind of guy that will just speak whatever is in his mind,
Yeah.
and sometimes some really shocking things. But people
Sure.
like that. Yeah, I'm not going to even
No, repeat it.
repeat it. I don't think
No.
it's worth it. You can check online if you
I don't
have
think
that
I need to.
morbid curiosity. But that's something there to say. Look, when you're conflicting resolution,
Yeah.
I think that some good practices to speak the truth in love and tell people. I like to use the word concern. Concern is a good word. Say,
Yeah.
Lindsay, I'm a little concerned about something here.
Sure.
Instead of saying, "Hey, Lindsay, I'm really annoyed at what you're doing,"
You make me so angry. Ah.
yeah. So using the word concern, I think it's a good word to use. "Hey, I'm a little bit concerned about something. Can you talk about it?"
Yeah.
You also have to ask the person. I realize now today, my parents, their whole life, they ask me when I woke up, say, "How did you sleep? Did you
Mm-hmm.
sleep well?" Do not know if you ask that to people or people ask that to you sometimes.
Not really, but
But I realized that there's actually a hidden positive agenda behind
Sure.
that. Because if a person says, "You know what, I didn't sleep well at all. I tossed and turned the entire night,"
Yeah.
you know that person
It's
is
not
not
a
going to
good-
be at their very best
Yeah.
mindset to talk
Yeah.
about anything important. So you
Yeah.
just leave it.
is this like what you often talk about in the African culture where
Yeah,
people are
exactly.
like, "How are you going? How's your family? How's your health? How's your mom's health?" Like before they bring up an
You're kind
issue.
of screening out. That's right.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
this is important value for you specifically from a few different angles I can see.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll keep that in mind.
Keep
when I
that
work
in
with
mind.
You in the future.
What you say, the timing of when you say things
Yeah.
is actually very important as well.
No, that's something I need to learn because I guess I'm probably more direct than the average Australian.
Mm-hmm.
Like my mum comes from Serbia, and Serbia is not a part of the world where being
People
soft
beat
and
about
gentle
around the
is.
bush.
There's no beating around the bush.
Yeah.
There's just like strong, very, very firm ways of communicating.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, like growing up amongst my aunties and my grandmother, like just watching them speak in Serbian around me, like they would be looking and sounding like they were angry, but they were just having a casual conversation. I was like, this is scary, but they're just like having a good time. And I'm like, so I've picked up on that direct and maybe not so pleasant form of communication. And so for me, it's very much an active learning moment for me to be able to be softer and gentler and be considerate of where people are coming from before I bring something up. So it's just a harder thing for
there
me
you
to
go.
do.
So that is that. Now moving on to the
Yeah.
other side of the world now, to Iran.
Yeah.
A few things I want to say. There's some historical things happen. The first time that a ship has been sunk by a submarine since
Okay.
World War II. So an American submarine sank an Iranian ship yesterday. There was the first time an F-35 fighter jet, for those who are into like this military gear tech, for the first time it actually also shut down in another airplane. So that happened. But the most important thing, this is just if you're into military history and curiosities. But to me, the coolest thing that I have heard so far, one of the best things I have heard so far, is that Armenia has opened their borders to Iranian refugees.
Armenia. Okay.
Now, Armenia has a border with Iran.
Yeah.
And a lot of Iranians tend to go to Armenia for holidays because they can do in Armenia all the things that they cannot do in Iran, like drinking, partying,
Okay.
dancing, at least not legally.
Sure.
But Armenia has opened their borders to Iranians, and like these Christian families are really receiving the Muslim families to them. And it's been quite, and some of the reports that we're getting from the ground there's a lot of Christian non-for-profits like CBN, the Christian channel.
Yep.
They have a big operation there where they're offering people, shelter and food and clothing, medications. They're even giving them some supplies that they can start small businesses with.
Wow.
So they're helping with these Muslim immigrants. But the testimonies that the Muslims from Iran are saying is that all of our Muslim brothers from all the surrounding nations, they closed the doors on us. So all the other countries, that surround Iran, that are Muslim countries, they say, look, we're not accepting anyone now. We don't want to have anything to do with this. We're kind of closing the borders. But then these Muslims are going to Armenia, which is like the oldest Christian country on earth, and they were bewildered, saying, "Why are you Christians helping us and not our Muslim brothers and sisters?"
What a testimony!
It is a massive testimony, and these Christians are receiving these Muslim people in their homes without even knowing them. They don't speak the same language; they just have to kind of get by using, like, I don't know, ChatGPT or AI or
Google Translate.
Because Armenian and Persian are very different languages.
Sure.
But that's a very nice news. And one of the things as well is that CBN, they had been planning to go into Iran for 6 years, and they have 150,000 Bibles to distribute.
Wow.
And now God is opening up that door, and they're now also able to distribute the Bibles to every Iranian who wants to read the Bible for himself.
That's
now
amazing.
has the opportunity to, without, fearing, death penalty just for doing so.
That's so good.
Yeah. Isn't that an amazing story?
Hey, look, God turns all sorts of bad things for good.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So we're praying for, particularly for Christians,
pray for the
in
Christians.
Iran, because they have been heavily persecuted, and now they don't know. So in one hand, people are optimistic that perhaps the same regime that has been oppressing them may not come into power, but they don't also know what kind of regime will ensue that one. So we're praying for them, for their resilience, that the gospel of Jesus can continue to spread on that country.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
Jeremy, do we have you with us now?
Hello.
Yes, good to hear from you. Okay, Jeremy, can you please tell us, what is tempeh? Because a lot of people haven't heard about it before.
Well, tempeh is tofu, for example, is made from mushed up soybeans, and tempeh is made from soybeans that are fermented, and they kind of stick together, and using bacteria, they kind of stick together into kind of a nice lump. So that's the difference between tempeh and tofu.
Okay, so where can people find tempeh? It's not an easy one to find. I know that at Food Pharmacy here in Newcastle, we have lots of tempeh. We do a lot of tempeh, but a lot of people say, hey, it's very hard to find good tempeh. Can you find them in health food shops? Where do you find them?
Well, most supermarkets these days will have a tempeh, but it's not all health food supermarkets will have it, or often some of the Asian supermarkets might have it, or health stores and things. So it can be difficult to find, but you'll generally find it in most cities, and most good supermarkets do have it these days.
Okay, and is tempeh good for you?
Yes. All the kind of microbes and bacteria in it are good for you, and being from soy, it's high in protein. So, I think it's a great product.
Yeah, I actually like it because I'm in a bit of a, I make sure that I try to get all my protein going for my training, and tempehs are just like so. Both tempeh and tofu actually are really protein marvels.
Yeah,
they're so rich in protein. So okay, now for those who have already tried tempeh, look, and I tried tempeh of all kinds, and to be honest, Jeremy, tempeh, it can taste very odd or it can taste amazing, but I think that it all makes or break on the seasoning and if you're marinating it. Is that your opinion also?
Yes, if you give someone a chunk of tempeh, they'll probably spit it out. So by itself, it's not that flash. So the trick basically is to basically oil and salt make it taste amazing. So the trick is to slice it or cube it quite thinly, and then basically either air fry it or fry it in a pan with some oil and salt. And that's a really good way to start it. And you can either do it as cubes or you can do it as strips. And you can make some really fun kind of bacon-like products by adding things like smoked paprika and maple syrup and soy sauce, kind of drizzle that over and kind of soak that in and kind of fry it. That can kind of make a nice bacon. Or even if you can just throw it in curries. So obviously curries have a lot of inherent flavour. So you can just pretty much cube it and put it straight in. It's quite nice in salads. Just fry it up to some cubes or some strips in a pan with oil and salt, and let it kind of cool a bit and put in salads, and that's quite nice as well. So that's probably the main areas I'd use tempeh. But it's got quite a nice nutty flavour, but you do need to kind of add other stuff to it because it can taste quite, organic.
Okay. And tell us about tofu. Now, tofu is a bit of a staple. Certainly in my home is a staple for those who are following a plant-based diet or vegetarian or vegan. Normally, tofu is a big deal. part of their, unless they're like some kind of soy-free diet. So with tofu, what are like the simplest ways to cook, particularly for people that are not terribly used to it? Because tofu also gets a bad rep, particularly among people that are omnivores and eat everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Tofu's got a very bad reputation. I mean, you do need to, like most kind of plant-based products, you need to kind of inject a lot of flavour into it. But it's one of my favourite products, and it can make some amazing dishes. So if you've given up on tofu, I'd suggest you give it another go. I've got a few ideas for you that work really well. So one of the probably the most popular recipes is scrambled tofu, and that's what you'll find in a vegan restaurant or something. So if you're doing breakfast, but I've got an alternative version because scrambled tofu is normally quite of a dry kind of an egg-style product. But I've been experimenting with a really nice silky method, and the trick is to use some really firm tofu. And you fry that up in the pan as normal and but really kind of crumble it, not kind of cube it, just kind of push it, get it in your hands and crumble it. And what you do is you take 20% of that tofu before you put it in the pan, put it in a blender, add a little bit of water, some cashew nuts, add some turmeric for colour, some of the black salt you can buy that kind of gives it that sulphury, eggy kind of smell. Put in some nutritional yeast, some salt, some garlic, and then blend that up. So you've got a really kind of thick, creamy tofu sauce with all these lovely flavours. And you kind of want it to be kind of quite thick but thin, kind of like pouring cream, I suppose, because it will thicken up. So in your pan, you've got your tofu frying away with a little bit of salt and oil and perhaps some onions, like you normally would with your scrambled tofu. And then when that's kind of finished, you just pour over this tofu cream, I suppose, and mix it through. And
that is really creative.
And it kind of becomes like more of a traditional scrambled eggs that's kind of a bit more silkier and moist rather than the normal traditional dry tofu. So that's quite nice on toast.
Look, Jeremy, I think that you just unlocked the ultimate secret for scrambled tofu that I cannot wait to try this one because I never thought about adding like a tofu-based sort of a sauce, if you want, to scrambled tofu, but it makes total sense to me.
They kind of take, when you order perfect scrambled eggs, for example, they're kind of quite silky and kind of a little bit kind of creamy, and that kind of makes tofu a little more creamy. So it's quite a lovely texture to have. And the best way to have scrambled tofu is just chop some avocado and serve that on the top. That just kind of makes it really special.
So, Jeremy, just a quick question. So, just going back here one step. So, in order for you to get a good scrambled tofu in the first part, so do you just chuck the whole block of tofu without anything in the pan and you're just like grilling it on all sides? Or do you use a fork to kind of break it into these crumbs that will become the mashed tofu? What do you do there?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of using my hands. So I just grab it and squeeze it really well and kind of let it ooze kind of through your fingers and come out as little kind of crumbly bits. It very much depends on the tofu. I'm a big fan of this using the most firm tofu you can find. Always have quite a good firm tofu that you can buy in their macro brand. It's quite a good firm one. If it's a little silken or soft, it may be a bit different. It should be okay. But yeah, the firm ones, just really squeeze it through and make it into kind of little crumbs.
And how do you make sure that they are cooking evenly? Because one of the challenges that I found in trying to make some scrambled tofu is that some parts will be kind of a nice and golden, but others will be kind of raw because of their surface area is so big. I find it hard to cook it evenly. What's the secret there?
Yeah, so I'd recommend using the biggest pan you've got and making sure you've got a bit of oil and salt in there. You may need a little more oil possibly, and just diligence in terms of just shaking it, stirring it, and being a little bit patient and making sure you kind of stir it quite a lot and get all the sides kind of done. Okay. You don't need to necessarily sear every single side of every single piece, as long as most of it's done. And the main thing really when you're putting it in the pan is to kind of cook out that raw tofu flavour and really develop that kind of more seared, kind of cooked, more mature flavour. So you kind of do need a little bit of time on a seared heat to kind of tell it, you're not raw anymore, you are cooked.
Amazing. And tell me one thing, is tofu a good, like if I do like a big batch of scrambled tofu, does it freeze well or do I have to kind of consume it straight away or after maximum 3 days in the fridge?
So I'm a big fan of doing everything as you need it. But freezing goods, freezing does change tofu. So for example, you can make it more chicken-like by freezing it. And what you can do is you can put it in the freezer for a couple of days and bring it out and defrost it, and you'll find it's got a very different, more stringy texture.
Okay.
And the more, like, it doesn't really work with a firm tofu, but a soft tofu, that works really well. So we make a not butter chicken in our cafe, and we use frozen tofu for that. So we freeze it, thaw it, and then chop it up, and then put it in the curry, and it kind of it's kind of a more, so that water kind of, when it freezes, it kind of makes a different texture inside the tofu. It makes it more kind of chicken-like.
Okay, so it is relatively freezer friendly if someone is wanting to just cook for the week or batch cook.
Yeah, tofu in general. Getting that nice texture of the scrambled eggs, that probably won't work. I mean, scrambled tofu, that probably won't work. But in general, it will freeze very well. It may change its texture, but it probably won't be significant.
All right. Okay, so for people now so this is a great introductory recipe to the world of tofu, like tofu scramble. It's definitely a classic. For those who have been like eating tofu for a long, long time, is there anything kind of a different that we should try that you recommend that you think it tastes really well?
Well, one of my favourite ways is just crispy tofu with peanut satay sauce. Mm-hmm. Really, really simple. So, and it works really on the air fryer or in a pan with oil and salt. So basically, and what you want to do is you want to make it so it kind of goes rubbery and chewy, and that kind of has a really nice texture when you eat it, particularly when you cool it down. So that's one of my favourite ways of doing it. If I'm really quick, just basically cutting into strips or slices, and then basically giving a good run in the air fryer or on the pan, and then making up a lovely satay sauce. One of the other tricks you can do when you are doing that is you can actually coat it with oil and cornstarch or corn flour, and that kind of makes it a little bit crispier as well. So that's another thing you can do to make it kind of crispen up a little bit.
Okay. So satay, all right. Now, what else? What other recipes did you bring to share with us for, into this tofu and tempeh world?
I'm going to a dangerous territory here, so we're going to make something sweet out of tofu.
Okay.
So we make a really lovely chocolate mousse out of tofu. Now, the trick here is not telling people it's made from tofu, because they just won't want to try it. It's kind of like putting avocado in your smoothies. So, so to make the chocolate mousse, what you do is in a blender, you put in a soft tofu. So there's different types. You've got your silken, which is kind of usually very, very floppy and very, very silken. And that I generally don't use that because when you blend it or do anything with it, it pretty much turns to mush. Mm-hmm. So I'm generally using like either silken, and halfway it's kind of a soft tofu, which is kind of holds its shape, and then you've got your firm tofus. So for the chocolate mousse, the best thing is to put in your soft tofu in a blender, and then you add maple syrup, cacao powder, some salt, and even some vanilla essence, and then you just blend that up, and you want to possibly add some water, but just add a little bit at a time to get you probably want the consistency so the blend is just working. So when you put things in the blender, it kind of stalls. You want to add just a little bit of water so it's just going around. You want it as thick as you can. Pour those into your dishes, put it in the fridge, and that'll set into a lovely chocolate mousse. You can also add some coconut oil in there if you want, or some avocado. And when you taste it, you want to make sure you're balancing out, and every batch is different, balancing out, and you may need more maple syrup and cacao powder because you want to make sure you're getting rid of that raw tofu kind of note. You might have a little bit in there, but you do need to kind of add the salt, the maple, and the cacao powder and the vanilla essence to really, tell it again, you are not a flavoured product. This is definitely a sweet product. Do not taste sweet. So you need to inject a lot of those ingredients in to tell the tofu to behave.
Yeah, the other day, Jeremy, a friend of mine from China, they brought a product to me, was new. It was a silken tofu, but it was already pre-sweetened. Have you seen these ones before?
No, I haven't. I do know when I go to America, everything is pre-sweetened. So that's obviously added. Yeah, there's a lot of in Asia. There's a lot of tofu sweet dishes in Asia as well. So they do a lot of things.
Yeah, and it was actually nice to eat. It was actually nice to eat, even straight from the package. So I'm wondering here if we could add that to the mousse and make an experiment and see how different it would taste.
Yeah, it could be a good start as well. If you could find it, that may be good. You have to be careful. It's probably got a whole lot of sugar in there, so just obviously be vigilant of what ingredients they have added.
Yes.
That could work as well.
That's a good point. The good thing about the recipe that you're sharing is that you can really be in control of how much sugar you actually want in your mousse. You know exactly how much is going there. And Jeremy, look, we are. It's about time for us to wrap up. But I'm wondering, can you tell us a little bit more of where people can find some of your recipes, particularly some of these sweet recipes or more tofu and tempeh recipes? Are they in any of your books?
Yes, I've got 8 revived cafe cookbooks and 2 Cook 30 cookbooks, and they're listed not entirely, but there's a lot of great tofu recipes, savouries, curries, meals, desserts with tofu. So you can buy them from the Signs on Mine site or the Dentist Book Centres, and there's lots of really healthy, delicious recipes in my cookbooks.
Absolutely. And actually, you can not only buy some of Jeremy's cookbooks, but if you were born in March, let us know here what your date of birth is, because our March birthday giveaway is coming up, and among the prizes, you can choose one of Jeremy's cookbooks. So maybe you can get that opportunity to complete your collection, or perhaps to even just start your collection. Jeremy, thank you so much for bringing us and introducing us a little bit to that world, the wonderful world, in my opinion, of tofu and tempeh. Some ideas for people to try it for the first time, some ideas to innovate a little bit if you have been into the tofu world for a while. And I'm looking forward for our next conversation next month when we catch up again.
Thank you very much. Great talk.
Thanks for being a part of the Faith FM family. Join our community on Facebook or get in touch at 1-800-FAITH-FM.